Okay, picture this. It's like 2 in the morning, you're deep down some YouTube rabbit hole, and the algorithm hits you with it. A video of a capuchin monkey in a diaper eating a grape at a little tiny table.
And it is adorable. You can't help it.
It's objectively adorable. Or, it's that guy in Texas wrestling a tiger cub on his perfect green lawn. The reaction for almost everyone is just this immediate, I want one.
It's a universal trigger, really. We're sort of hardwired to be fascinated by the wild. We want to touch it, to hold it, bring it into our home.
Right, but that impulse, that desire to own nature, that's the engine behind this massive global industry that is, well, it's a biological train
The
wreck.
train wreck is, maybe putting it mildly, the exotic pet trade is
Yeah.
where our love for animals so often ends up just destroying them.
Mm.
And the problem, the real root of it, isn't just bad laws. It's a misunderstanding of biology itself.
The confusion between tame and domesticated.
Exactly. They're not the same thing. Not even close.
And that distinction is exactly where we're going to start today. We're doing a deep dive into the architecture of this wild domestic divide. We've gone through reports on taxonomy, genetics, the global supply chains, animal welfare.
All to answer one basic question.
Can you really make the wild fit inside your living room?
And the genetics, well, they scream no.
So let's start with those definitions. Because I think for most people, tame and domesticated, they're synonyms, If I have a lion that doesn't eat me, it's domesticated. Why is that so wrong?
Because you're confusing software with the hardware.
Okay.
Taming is a software update. It's just behavioral conditioning on one animal. You take a wild tiger cub, you hand raise it, and you're just conditioning it to tolerate you. You're suppressing its natural instincts.
But the DNA, the hardware, is still wild.
100%. It's still a tiger.
So if that tame tiger has cubs, they don't inherit the niceness?
Not a single bit. That cub is born with the exact same wild blueprint, ready to hunt. The taming process dies with the parent. You have to start all over again, every single time.
Okay, so that's taming. What's domestication then?
Domestication is the hardware update. It's a full genetic overhaul. It happens over dozens, hundreds, thousands of generations. It isn't about training. It's about selective breeding that permanently changes the animal's DNA to be predisposed to humans.
So a dog isn't just a wolf that we made friends with.
Not at all. A dog is a wolf that's been genetically engineered, really, over millennia. It's co-evolves with us. It can digest our food. It can read our faces. A golden retriever is born expecting to be part of your family. You don't have to break it.
The report made a great point about feral animals, too. I always thought of Mustangs out west as wild horses.
Right, but biologically they're not. A Mustang is a feral animal,
Meaning?
meaning it comes from domesticated stock,
Yeah.
Spanish horses,
Right.
centuries ago. That just got
Mhm.
loose. But their DNA is still domestic horse DNA.
Yeah.
They're just living without us.
So a feral cat is still, deep down, a domestic cat, even if it wants to scratch your eyes out.
Exactly. A feral cat is a domestic animal with a bad attitude. A tame tiger is a wild animal with a training protocol. They are total opposites. A truly wild horse, like the Przewalski's horse, its chromosomes are completely different from a Mustang's.
Which brings us to this idea of the domestication syndrome. I guess Charles Darwin noticed this first, that all our domestic animals start to look weirdly similar.
It's one of the coolest puzzles in biology. Darwin saw that whether it's a pig, a rabbit, a cow, a dog, when you breed it for tameness, you get the same set of traits. Floppy ears, white spots,
Shorter noses, curly tails, even smaller brains.
all of it. Which is bizarre. Why would breeding a dog to be friendly make its ears flop over? There's no connection there.
Not a logical one anyway.
For the longest time, nobody knew, but now there's the Neural Crest Cell Hypothesis, and it pretty much explains everything.
Okay, break that down. Neural crest cells.
So think of them like special stem cells. They pop up really early when an embryo is developing, near the spinal cord, and then they migrate out to form all kinds of different things.
Like what?
Like the adrenal glands, which control the fight or flight response, and the pigment cells in the skin melanocytes,
Yeah.
and also the cartilage in your face and your ears.
Okay, so one type of cell builds the system for adrenaline, skin color, and face shape.
Exactly. So when humans first started domesticating animals, what's the number one trait we selected for?
Well, not getting mauled, so less aggression.
Right, less fear and aggression, which physiologically means we're picking animals with smaller, less reactive adrenal glands.
The chill one.
The chill ones, yes. But here's the kicker. The adrenal glands are made from those neural crest cells. So by selecting for animals with weaker adrenal systems, we're accidentally selecting for a deficit in neural crest cells overall.
Oh, okay, I think I see it now.
If the embryo has fewer of these cells, or less active ones.
Hmm.
Yes, you get the smaller adrenals you wanted, but you also get fewer pigment cells reaching the skin, so you get white spots.
And the ears don't get enough cartilage to stand up, so they flop.
And the snout doesn't grow as long. It all connects back to those cells.
That's incredible. So all the things we think of as cute, the floppy ears, the spots, it's just a biological receipt. We asked for friendly, and the genes gave us all this other stuff as part of the package.
It's completely accidental baggage. We selected for behavior, and the anatomy just came along for the ride.
And there's actual proof of this, right? That famous Soviet fox experiment.
Dmitry Belaev's experiment. Yes, this is the smoking gun. In the 50s, he took silver foxes from fur farms. They were totally wild, super aggressive, and he started breeding them for only one thing.
Tameness.
That's it. Not for fur color, not for size. You just stick a gloved hand in the cage. If the fox attacked, it was out. If it hesitated or showed even a flicker of curiosity, it got to breed.
And what happened? How long did it take?
That's the mind-blowing part. It wasn't thousands of years. In just 10 generations, the foxes were starting to seek out human contact.
10. That's it.
And by 20 generations, they were acting like dogs, wagging their tails, whining for attention, licking his hands. But here's the proof. Their bodies changed. They started getting floppy ears,
Oh, way.
white spots on their heads. Their tails started to curl. He basically speed-ran domestication in a few decades.
He proved you can't get the personality without the body. It's a package deal.
Exactly. Which brings us back to that tiger in Texas. It has none of this. It has the full-strength adrenal system, the full wild hardware, no neural crest changes. It's a wild animal in a costume.
It's a biological time bomb.
A very beautiful time bomb, which is why the trade is so huge.
Let's talk about that trade. Because getting that wild animal into a living room, it's a massive, massive industry. The numbers in this report just floored me.
It's hard to even comprehend the scale. The U.S. alone imports something like 90 million live animals every year for the pet trade.
Wait. 90 million annually. That's almost a third of the U.S. population in animals every year.
Yes. And from 2016 to 2024, the data shows nearly 248 million wild-sourced animals came into the country. Everything you can imagine.
But when you see these animals for sale, the label always says captive bred. Is that just a lie?
It's often a very, very convenient fiction. The report calls it laundering.
How does that work?
Poachers will catch, say, thousands of lizards in the wild somewhere. They ship them to a big holding facility, a breeding farm. Those animals are then exported to the U.S. with paperwork that says captive bred.
Just because they spent a week in a building.
Pretty much. And once that paper is stamped, it's legal. It creates this gray market where you can legally buy an illegally sourced animal. And the waste in that supply chain is just staggering.
How bad is it?
It's a war of attrition. For every one animal that actually makes it into a home, some estimates say up to 50 may have died along the way.
50.
From stress, dehydration, being crushed. I mean, they're treated like cargo, not living things.
And what about after they're purchased?
It doesn't get better. For wild-caught animals, something like 60 to 70% die within 6 weeks.
Wow.
People just don't know what you're doing. The humidity is wrong, the food is wrong, the animal stops eating, and it dies.
And if it doesn't die, the owner often just gets tired of it and dumps it.
Yeah.
I feel like we have to talk about the red-eared slider turtle.
The poster child for biological pollution.
That's the little green turtle everyone had in the 90s, right?
The very same. We exported millions of them from the U.S., but they grow up, they get big, they smell, and they can live for 30 years. So what do people do?
Dump them in the nearest pond.
Exactly. And they don't just survive, they thrive. They're basically little tanks. They're now an invasive species in 68 countries. They outcompete native turtles. They spread disease. It's an ecological disaster.
And Florida is ground zero for this stuff.
Florida is a complete catastrophe.
Ooh.
85% of their non-native reptiles and amphibians got there through the pet trade. The Burmese pythons in the Everglades. That's because people's cute pet snakes got too big to handle.
So the supply chain is deadly, and the survivors can wreck ecosystems. But let's zoom in on the animals that stay in the home, the supposed successes. Because the fantasy is that monkey on your shoulder. It looks like a real bond.
It looks like a bond to us. To a primate expert, it looks like trauma.
Okay.
To get a pet monkey that's tame, you have to rip it away from its mother days after birth.
Why so early?
To force it to imprint on the human owner. But for a primate, that maternal bond is everything. Taking it away destroys them psychologically. It's why you see so many pet monkeys with stereotypes.
Like rocking back and forth.
Rocking, pacing, even self-harm, like biting themselves. It's a sign of extreme mental distress. And that's
Yeah.
before we even get to the physical problems.
Like what?
Most homes don't have the specific UV lighting monkeys need to process calcium, so they get metabolic bone disease. Rickets, basically. Their bones literally become soft and deformed.
That's awful. And they live for a long time.
20 to 55 years.
Yeah.
And the cycle is predictable. The monkey hits puberty, it gets aggressive because it's a wild animal, it bites someone, and then it gets locked in a cage in the basement or dumped at a roadside zoo.
And the tiger cub trade is sort of a speed run version of that, isn't it?
It's an industry built on disposable babies. A tiger cub is only safe for photo ops for about 12 weeks.
And after that,
Too big, too strong, too dangerous. So the exhibitors need a constant fresh supply. This leads to speed breeding, where they pull the cubs from the mothers immediately to make her breed again. And to make them safer for selfies, they're almost always declawed,
which people say is just like trimming their nails.
which is a complete lie. It's an amputation. They cut off the last bone of each toe. It causes chronic, lifelong pain. It's crippling an animal for a photo.
And the survival rate for those tigers?
It's estimated that 90% of tigers in private hands die within the first 2 years. They just disappear.
Even for animals that aren't dangerous, like snakes, it seems we're finding new ways to make them suffer. The report talked about wobble syndrome in ball pythons.
Oh, this is a really tragic example of putting looks over welfare. In the reptile world, people breed for morphs, special colors and patterns. One of the most popular is the spider morph.
Okay, pretty snake. But what's the catch?
The gene that creates that pretty pattern also causes neurological damage.
What?
They have a vestibular defect. They can't tell up from down. Their head wobbles constantly. They corkscrew and can't aim properly to eat. They live their whole lives dizzy and disoriented.
And breeders know this.
Oh, yeah. They call it the wobble. But they keep breeding them because they sell for a lot of money. We're knowingly producing animals with brain damage because we think they look cool.
Okay, we've covered the animal cost. Let's pivot to the human cost. Because this isn't just bad for the animals, it's dangerous for us.
It's a ticking time bomb for public health. Zoonotic spillover, diseases jumping from animals to people.
Salmonella is the classic one, right?
It is. The U.S. banned the sale of small turtles back in 1975 because they were causing 14% of all salmonella cases in the country. Little kids putting them in their mouths.
But it can get much, much worse than a stomach bug.
So much worse. Take macaques, popular pets. They carry herpes B virus.
Herpes B.
In the monkey, it's just a mild cold sore. But if it gets into a human, through a bite or a scratch,
And monkeys bite.
they absolutely bite. In a human, that virus causes fatal encephalomyelitis, swelling of the brain and spinal cord.
Really?
If you don't get treated immediately, the mortality rate is around 80%.
You are literally risking your life for a pet.
Literally.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the money, the financial black hole of it all.
Right.
The price of the animal is just the entry fee. A dog might cost you, what, $2,000 a year? A tiger costs at least $10,000 a year, minimum, just for food.
And if it gets sick, you can't just take it to your corner vet.
No way. Your local vet knows how to treat a Labrador.
Yeah.
They don't have the equipment or the knowledge to handle a sick python, let alone a 400-pound cat. You need a specialist, and they are incredibly expensive.
The report had that story about the Milwaukee lion. It's almost funny, but it really makes the point about the public cost.
It's a perfect case study. Someone calls 911, says they saw a lion roaming the streets. The city goes on lockdown. Police, helicopters, huge expense.
And it turned out to be.
A large house cat. A Maine Coon, I think? But the fear was totally rational. Because in a country where there are more tigers in backyards than in the wild, seeing a lion on your street is a plausible threat. The public pays for one person's hobby.
So we've laid out a pretty brutal case, but to be fair, there's a whole community of owners who say this is all wrong.
There is. It's a very divided issue. You have groups like USARC, the Reptile Keepers Association.
That's their main argument.
They advocate for responsible keeping. They say a ban is collective punishment. You know, just because one guy was an idiot doesn't mean my well-cared-for animals should be illegal. They see it as a personal liberty.
And they also make the conservation argument. I'm saving the species by breeding them in my backyard. You hear that a lot from tiger owners. Does that hold any water?
Scientifically, no. It's called the conservation myth.
Why is it a myth?
Two big reasons. First, the genetics are garbage. These privately owned tigers are what we call generic. They're hybrids of different subspecies. Bengals, Siberians, Sumatran, all mixed together. They're mutts. You can't use them to repopulate the wild. You'd be polluting the gene pool.
So they have zero conservation value.
Zero. And second, behavior. You can't put a captive bred predator back in the wild. They have no fear of humans, and they don't know how to hunt. The survival rate for reintroduced carnivores is about 33%. It's a death sentence.
So it's a pet, not a genetic insurance policy.
It's a pet, and a dangerous one at that.
And then you have the other side, the animal rights groups.
Right, groups like the RSPCA, their argument is more fundamental. It's ethical. They say humans simply don't have the right to confine a wild animal for our own amusement. That no cage, no matter how big, can replace the wild. You're robbing the animal of its very nature.
So with this huge deadlock, where do we go? The report mentioned an idea called positive lists.
It's probably the most sensible path forward. Right now, most laws are negative lists. That means everything is legal to own unless it's on the banned list.
So regulators are always playing catch-up.
Always. A positive list flips that. It says, here is a short, science-based list of animals that are suitable for domestic life. Dogs, cats, hamsters, certain fish, and everything else, by default, is prohibited.
So the burden of proof shifts. Instead of having to prove an animal is dangerous, the seller has to prove it's safe and suitable.
Exactly. You have to show its welfare needs can actually be met by a normal person. It forces the industry to finally respect that biological divide we started with.
It feels like that brings us full circle, back to that first impulse, seeing the tiger cub and wanting to love it. But maybe our idea of love is the problem.
I think it is. We want to possess the thing we find beautiful. But what all this data shows, the genetics, the trade, the welfare, is that these animals aren't just furry, scaly versions of dogs. They are evolutionary marvels, built for a world that is not our living room.
Domestication takes millennia. You can't fake it with a baby bottle in a cage.
Can't. And maybe the most profound act of love for a wild animal is just leaving it wild.
That's a powerful thought to end on. Thank you so much for walking us through all of this. And for you listening, here's something to think about. If you truly love the wildness in an animal, the very essence that makes it a tiger, are you honoring that by caging it, or are you extinguishing it? Maybe that line between wild and domestic isn't something to be blurred. Maybe it's a boundary to be respected.
Well said.
That's all for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.